Hey, my name is Jayesh. This is our DICE project. We coded the game Yahtzee. And as for the code, I worked on the ThinkSpeak functions and the reach functions, as well as some debugging.
My name is Parsois. I primarily worked on some of the finishing touches on the interface, and I worked on most of the functions that allow our Yahtzee dice game to work.
Hello, my name is Faison Lin. I in charge of working for the interface, the menus, and also the dice functions, and also help debugging.
Hello, my name is Jasmine. I also worked on the reach functions as well as the ThinkSpeak functions.
And right now, I'm going to share my screen detailing what we did for our project. So what we see here is the primary interface of our Yahtzee dice game. We couldn't install a background, like a green background, because it would interfere with the dice axes right here, and everything here from the player name to the player number, which you have to input in the beginning of the game in order to enable these two options. You're able to decide whether we can have an online game or a local game. The online game we can't currently have with this model because we weren't able to have enough time to work on the ThinkSpeak components of our functions. So we weren't able to establish the first, second, and third place responsible for online playing. However, we do have a local game, most of the local game components set for two players playing on the same keyboard. So starting here, these are all the properties for the components of the interface and the properties of the ThinkSpeak features. These are the properties necessary to allow the core components of the function of our application to work. And this here, I'll let Jasmine take over. Jasmine.
I apologize. The following ThinkSpeak functions allow us to display and send the information to the players on the screen.
And this here was a ThinkSpeak channel function that I wrote, which basically clears the channel on ThinkSpeak to ensure that nothing from the past game comes to the new game. These functions rolls the dice for the player. This allows the player to save dice. And this allows the player to sort the saved dice, or well, this allows the application to sort dice to make the scoring functions much easier. This re-rolls dice that isn't saved. However, it wasn't didn't have enough time to implement it into our code. And this here clears the dice rolls and save dice rolls, as well as the player score for each round, so the next player can go. And Jasmine was responsible for these reach effects, so I'll let her take these.
Alrighty, so for these reach factors, we have the sound effects. The first one allows us to play a sound effect when the players roll the dice. The second one is going to be the sound effects that play when the players select which dice they would like to save. And that third one is going to be the one that plays after the winner is determined by the game.
This fourth reach factor is a timer that basically starts from 60 and then counts down for the player's turn. And then once the next player's turn starts, it would reset to 60 and begin counting down again to keep players responsible for their turn. But we were not able to implement it, although the code itself creates a working timer.
And these here basically just disable all of the interface options so that players can adjust them. And this here contains the write key, read key, and channel ID for the ThinkSpeak functions if we had time to implement them. And these were handled by Paizing.
Yeah, those are basic functions about the menus and also the buttons. And yeah, those callback functions, and also yeah, and some information in the manual, like the help manual included rules and other stuffs.
And following this includes all of these many options, includes the roll button, which allows the player to, well, roll the dice they want. The save button option allows the player to save the dice that they have rolled, and then subsequently they can use the roll button to re-roll dice. This here was handled by Paizing.
Yeah, it is basically the dice function, so it shows values and also store the values of the dice, and it show up like a small dice image.
Okay, and this repeats for the multiple instances of the dice in the dice that is rolled and the dice that is saved. Following this is the function, are the callbacks for where the player enters their name and number. After these are done, the begin local game button is available to the player. This starts, well, the local game that two players can play on the same keyboard. This enables the required functions for that on. This is another dice, another dice, another dice. And after the player like rolls and save dice, they're provided the option to select a score. And these functions here are responsible for calculating the score that the player selects. So the first one we passed was aces, this is twos, this is threes, this is fours, fives, sixes. This is for three of a kind scoring. This is for four of a kind scoring. This is for a full house. This is for a small straight, and this for a large straight. And then you have code for a Yahtzee and the chance scoring. And I'll provide an example of our application running. So what we have here, so the player has to enter their name and then their player number. This would be reserved for the online portion, but because we didn't have time to implement that, it does not work. Then the player can, player one starts a local game. You roll the dice and have to select the axes to show the dice. If you press roll again, it shows the new dice that was rolled in there. And you can only roll a maximum of 3 times. And throughout that process, you can save dice. First, you have to, apologies for that, you have to enter the number of the dice you want. So let's say you want dice number 1, you enter 1 there and save, and the box disappears. For some reason, this will not appear in the first one. However, all subsequent dice will appear in the next save ones, and this continues. This continues to where you save it and it appears here. And the last one, which is the third, if you save it, it appears here. And here you're prompted
Also,
to select
it
a
is
score.
important to note that the first one does store the value, it just doesn't appear visually. So it's working and the total will appear, it just doesn't show visually.
Yes, and then when you're prompted to select the score, let's say I want to calculate the 6's score. Since there's only 1 6, this should appear as just a 6, and that is what appears here. And then it passes to the second player. However, this is where the application runs into some issues that we weren't able to error check in time. However, the code present would allow for a player 1 to player 2 to alternate between each other until their totals are calculated and the winner is determined. And that is pretty much our project. So thank you for watching.